Hallo, I'm Karl Atschel and das ist Teletext Leute Deutschland Spezial. This episode is covering a live working teletext system, something that we've not enjoyed in the United Kingdom since 2012. So it's been a great pleasure to actually meet somebody who's running a teletext service. This one's on ARD, the Deutschland Ersten Teletext program. And I had the pleasure of speaking to Frauke Langguth. Frauke tells us how she got into teletext, how ARD actually runs today, and what the future holds for the teletext service and teletext services in general. So, without any further ado, let's crack on and go straight into the interview.
Thank you for having me in the podcast. It's really interesting. And I have a close bond to all the teletext fans in the UK. So I started working for ARD Text, which is the teletext of the first nationwide program. Like ARD is like BBC. It's a public broadcaster. And we have a teletext in the first channel we call Das Erste. We started 1980 and I started working there 2008. So it has been 14 years now that I work for teletext, and it has quite a nice experience and a great time I had with teletext. But when I started, I didn't know anything about teletext, actually. I've never used it before. I did hardly know what it was. And I just agreed because for me, it was an opportunity to become head of a department. I was a normal editor before, and then I got this chance and I said yes, but I did not think much about what is teletext. So I just said yes. And I walked over to the teletext department and I started really learning everything about teletext. So my background is I'm a journalist. I work for a newspaper. I worked for a radio station, like 10 years radio. I shifted then to online when online was new, when the internet was just developing. I was fascinated. And I worked for online and multimedia, how we call it in these days. And so I never had contact with teletext. And I didn't even work for television. I was more a radio person, actually. I liked radio a lot. So I started working at teletext, and it was like a discovery for the first years. My colleagues in the department were really experienced. Some of them had started in the 80s. Actually. So they had a lot of knowledge about teletext, and it was always like me asking, how do you do this? What did you do then? How does it work? And that technology was also something new for me. I had worked in online. I knew what a content management system was. I had not developed, but I was part of a project for a new online content management system. But then teletext technology is totally different, and I had to learn a lot about technology. But I liked learning. Everything was new. But first, I had to admit, I came from a background, I worked with images. I did a lot of Photoshop. I worked with sound. I worked with video. So then I had text, and I was like, okay, no images. I was really shocked first. But then I started to appreciate what a great medium teletext is. It's text-based short news. And ARD Text is offering mostly information about politics and about sports, and also information about the program. These are the contents people like most. They liked them 10 years ago, and they still like this content most. And I learned, how difficult it is sometimes to put the news on one teletext page. I think it's really art. I mean, you have to be very precise. You have to work with words. You have to be careful. One word can make a difference. And first, I missed all this images in Photoshop, but now I think I learned a lot working for teletext. I'm really good at grammar now. I see all the mistakes, because I look at text every day. And of course, I'm in charge of the program, so I want it to be without mistakes. I want it to be correct. So I do also a lot of controlling what my colleagues are writing. I'm not writing the news. I'm more supervising all the time. So I'm not really a journalist anymore, but I look at what is in the teletext. And I started really to like teletext, and then I think to love teletext, and I discovered during the years what possibilities do we have in teletext. It seems so limited first, you only have text, you have only 6 colors, you have limited space, but then you can do a lot with these limitations. And I grew really close to teletext, I have to say. And then we also had the chance to do interesting things. I mean, we started, for example, doing art with teletext artists. And this is something, I mean, normally teletext is about news. And teletext used to have images in Germany, but when I started, and the person who was in charge before me had already begun to eliminate images, because images were just instead of photos, and this didn't work any longer. So we don't have a lot of images in our teletext, but then we do art, and this is a totally different story, because then you can do really great art stuff with teletext, but it's not just a replacement for an image like on an online page. So I learned a lot in the last 14 years, and I'm really happy that I took the chance to do it when I was asked, will you be head of teletext? So I said yes, and it was a good choice, I think, looking back. I mean, teletext is quite conservative. So we have because I came from online, I was always comparing, what is the difference between online and teletext. And in online, you would have like a starting page, and we have our page 100, which is our starting page. And what we offer there didn't change much in the last year. So we would have like the news, the international and German news from politics, or also events or disaster, and then we will have we will have 3 lines for politics and news, and then we will have like 4 lines for headlines for sports, and then we also have the information what program is running right now. And then, of course, we also have other offerings. But, I mean, to be honest, we kind of came back to the basics. And we tried a lot of things, which we did in the last years. But, of course, like the BBC, money is getting tighter. And we have to really say, what do we want to do and what can we skip, So teletext always did have content when I started, which it doesn't have anymore, because people changed, the world around us changed, the use of media changed. We really observe very closely what is going on and what is really good for teletext, So, for example, 20 years ago, they would have like lists of phone call providers. You could check in the teletext, you want to call the United States, then take this and this number. And if you want to call the UK, take this and this number. This was like service, But nowadays, nobody needs this anymore because you have a flat rate, We do have a lot of weather informations. But of course, we know that people now have apps, and they can see the weather at their place. And you can't deliver this on a nationwide teletext service because the number of pages is still limited. You have to decide what you offer. And this is, from my perspective, sometimes it's like, you only have, it starts with number 100 and goes up to 899. So this, are the pages you can use. And you can, of course, have what we call sub-pages to each page. But this doesn't make sense because then the teletext gets very slowly, So you're limited in your space. You have to decide what you want to offer. But this is also an advantage because we don't have any trash. I mean, it's just, and we don't have an archive. So all the news in teletext are new. They are relevant, and if they're no longer new or relevant, then they're gone, and they don't fly around in the endless internet, it's just for the moment. So the more I learn about teletext, I like all the ideas which are connected to this medium. It's very pure. It's ecological because it doesn't leave any news waste. You just have the news you can read now, which are important for now. And I think, or my colleagues, we talked about this, if there wouldn't be such a service like teletext, maybe somebody would have had invented it now because it's such a brilliant idea, to offer news in this format. But of course, during the time, we watched online pages growing, news pages growing. We watched Twitter. Twitter was very close to teletext first because it was limited. When it has only, I think, 140 signs you could use, characters, So you had to limit yourself in Twitter as well, like we do in teletext. So there's always features about teletext which I think are still really great. It's a very pure, compact form of information. But of course, it's not for everybody. That's also, there is a tendency people want news to be more entertaining or more snackable or more bits and pieces, And of course, if you want this kind of information, or maybe it's not really information, it's entertainment, then you wouldn't be interested in pure news. So teletext is not for everybody, I would say. But we brought the teletext also to the internet. We have a online version of teletext. We have one version which looks like the classical teletext. And then we have another version which is more modern, and it's for mobile phones, and it's also an app. It doesn't look like the old style teletext. And you can download the app in the App Store and also for Android smartphones, and then we get the feedback of the users. This is really great. It only takes like 2 minutes to be informed. You don't have to scroll and to decide and to click. It's just like you can tank the news. But of course, these are people who want this kind of information. Other people don't want it no longer or never have wanted it. And this, of course, you also have to face. Teletext was really, really successful in Germany because the teletext decoders were in all the TV sets, still are actually. So we would have like a coverage of 99% of all TV sets are able to display teletext. But of course, some people don't know what teletext is. This is typical reaction I get. Some people say teletext, I have never heard of it. And others say, oh, it still exists. And I say, yes, it still exists. And of course, we do have ARD Text has the audience. If you take all the people who use teletext, it would sum up to 19 million people, who get in contact with ARD Text. This is quite a lot. It's still a lot. But of course, they don't use it. Not everybody uses it every day. They use it once in a while. They use it, but maybe they are no longer heavy users. And of course, we know that the people who use teletext are mostly born. They might be around 50, 60, 70 now, and we don't get any young people, and this is really a problem. We can't get young people to use teletext, and it's not because of teletext, it's because a lot of them don't use television anymore. They watch the content of television as video on demand service. and the video on demand service is not connected to the to the daily, to the things which happen daily. Teletext was always connected to real life, to the now. And if you watch a TV show on video on demand, you can do it tonight or tomorrow, and you do it on your own schedule. But then you are not necessarily connected to the news world. So this connection gets lost. And so how long will teletext be around, and will it be around forever? And I think, I don't know. I mean, it's a hard question. A lot of people like teletext in Germany. They're fans who say it's super retro, but they say it has to stay. It's so great. But of course, if you don't get if you don't reach the young audience, then it might be a problem on the long run. But it's not our problem only from teletext. It's the problem of all the media. I'm sure BBC does an effort to reach younger audiences, which are not socialized with TV like we were. I mean, we always had this a little bit of trouble that people would tell me teletext looks so old. And I would say, no, I mean, it's new. The content is not old at all. It's the newest thing you can get. And teletext is still very fast, You can it's faster to write a headline in teletext and to publish it than to do it online, actually, because the technology is very fast. So, I mean, I make a correction in the teletext, and the same second it's on the TV. So it's really fast. But so the content is new, but online was on the rise. And the colleagues, everybody wanted to be modern. So they said, no, we don't talk about teletext anymore, So it's kind of, we were in a shadow, maybe. Yeah. But I found this, on the other hand, it was a great time for us because we were not on the spotlight. So we had the freedom to do a lot of things at our ARD Text. I could say I'm doing an art exhibition, and we could just do it, So we didn't have to ask like 500 people, can we do this, because this is when you are in the spotlight. Everybody wants to talk about it. So we had a lot of freedom to do great things, in my opinion, and we did this together with the colleagues from Switzerland and the colleagues from Austrian teletext, and we were in contact with the Finnish teletext, and we had meetings with all the colleagues from teletext. So that was, sometimes it was easier because not everybody was looking at you, and we still have we have a lot of people who still use teletext, who write us letters if something is wrong, and I mean, of course, some of them are getting old, of course, but they still pay, so they're also part of the audience, And I think some people would really miss teletext if it wouldn't be around. So
yes, I think being in the UK, there are people. I know that obviously, teletext hasn't been here since 2012, but there are people who are more senior and older in their years that would still know off by heart the page numbers for the Football League tables and the cricket scores and the weather. And people, in fact, the red button service that we had here that superseded the teletext, they did revert to using the classic page numbers, so that existing teletext users, which were the audience for the new DVB sort of service, could find what they were looking for.
Yeah, I think the numbers are actually a great invention, because it's like, always say, like short links. If you know the numbers, you can get the information so fast. And it's I would say sometimes faster than if you take your iPhone, you scroll, you search, you click. If you know the numbers, you can be there really fast. And our mobile app is very small. It's just some bytes. So you can go. In Germany, the coverage for mobile phones is not good at all parts. Still, it's not great in some parts of Germany. Or if there are many people around, if they gather in Berlin and everybody's watching the World Championships, then you have no reception. But still, the teletext signal gets through because it's just so small, So this is also an advantage. And I don't know, in times of crisis, we don't know what will TV be working? Will there be electricity? Will there be mobile service? But when the internet breaks down, hopefully there will be teletext. So, but of course, we are not. I mean, we watch what is going on in the media world. We try to find what is a special benefit of teletext, And I think you were interested also in our page 777, which was like the idea to bring Twitter tweets from Twitter to the linear program to the teletext. So we had like a live commentary. We did this for like 6-7 years, special shows, and people would use Twitter to communicate, and then we would choose the best tweets or just tweets, and then broadcast them in the television. And I think this was also a great idea to connect the linear TV with Twitter. It was like people talking about what was going on right now in TV. And this was possible because teletext is so fast, So, but actually we stopped doing this. I mean, we always think we did this for a long time, we continue doing it, and then we said, no, just let's take a break. We did this for a long time. We will see if we do something new or something else, but we also had to concentrate, on our core topics like the news.
Yes, I watched the Twitter handle from afar, and I just thought it was just an excellent use of teletext, because it was a way of people to use modern technology to interact with the older technology, and perhaps increase the take up a bit as well of it. And some of the tweets were very fun. I think the sort of programs that they were on were sort of like murder programs and things.
Yeah, it was. We have every Sunday we have a classic. It's a murder drama every Sunday. So there is the audience who likes this, and they like also Twitter. And some of them even wrote, "So I'm posting this on Twitter. Maybe my parents will see it on teletext." So I thought that was great. Like the older generation was watching teletext, and the young and watching if their sons would post something, about the show, what was going on. So it was like a layer of opinion you would have in TV, and also with the art, I always liked the idea that you would use the TV as a museum, but it's in every household. Everybody could see this, so it's free. You just sit on the couch in the morning, or in the night you turn it on. You don't have to go to a museum or to a gallery, and these artworks looked especially great on the TV, actually. I mean, you can see it on the web page, but when you have a big screen and it's dark and it's really glowing, the colors are really bright in teletext. You would have magenta or cyan, as we say. Then it's really great. I think it's very special. Like special moments in history of art or whatever. So I wish that more people would appreciate it. We tried to attract the art scene, the real art people in Berlin. And it was so funny because one day I saw a little gallery and I walked by and said, "Oh, this is teletext." And I went inside and they had actually found somebody in Italy who had started to do teletext art, and they presented it in their very fancy gallery. So that was really great. Video art, electronic art is still a niche. It's a new kind of art. So, and I think it's great what we did. I mean, a lot of people from the UK were part of it, but from other countries as well. And they produced really great things for teletext. We had what we did lately was looking back in the history of teletext, and we a guy from Thüringen. He contacted me and he said, I lived in the GDR and we happened to have a video recorder, you know. So he would tape the TV shows from the West, and on the tapes, on the VHS tapes, he would have the teletext from that time, and he learned how to extract it. I think he got in contact with you or other people in UK as well, and it was so great what he found on these old tapes. You know, it was like a time capsule. You know, and then we rebroadcasted some of the old news. And the news were different in that time. Even the wording was different, you know, but it was originally from the 80s. I mean, he started doing this in 88 and 89, around the time of the fall of the wall. So it was really great what he discovered on his tapes, you know. So we had this exhibition. We did this in spring. I think it was great. And of course, we have a question, can we preserve this somehow? Is there a place, an archive, you know, who would be interested? Media history, this is, I think it's really valuable. But so far, it's not organized, you know, that somebody says, I want to preserve this. And one day you won't be able to recover from the VHS tapes. You know, they are no longer now. Now we take screenshots or, but we are not doing the archiving ourselves right now. So I also liked that people were approaching us, you know, and it was like a community effort. People were doing this. It's not ARD paying or saying do this and this, but people came up and say, I'm interested, how does it work? So, and then teletext is kind of approachable, you know. I know that people did teletext with Raspberry Pis, you know, they made their own teletext. So it's interesting from a lot of different point of views, teletext, from the technical, but also from the content, media history, real history, German history, whatever, and also from the artistic point of view.
Yes, certainly. It's teletext does have a broad church of people. We got the archaeologists, the archivists, the artists,
yes,
the journalists, the historians, and it's really it's a very big boat with many people in it. Would I just be able to ask you a question about you? You said about somebody who was in the GDR at the time when Berlin was divided and the country divided into East and West. For someone to have a teletext set in the East, was there any way that the GDR would try and block TV signals so people couldn't use the teletext?
That's interesting. I don't think so. I mean, because when you could watch the West German program, you could also read the teletext if your TV set would be able to do so. Not all in the 80s, maybe not all the TV sets were able to do so. The GDR did not have a teletext. They did some testings. And this guy, he also recorded some of the tests. That's also great. But when the wall came down, they didn't start a teletext, you know, so they never actually had one. They did tests, but it was a Western technology. And I have to talk to a colleague. I think one colleague told me once he was user of teletext even then, you know, in the GDR. So I don't think they especially blocked the teletext. And I don't know how you could do it. I think they never could really. I mean, in some parts of the GDR, you could not receive Western radio or Western television, but they couldn't block it. I mean, West Berlin was in the center, and you know the waves are kind of free, so the information was already there. And they even had a program in the GDR television broadcasting things we were broadcasting, but then saying, now you see how bad it is in the in the western part of Germany. So there were many efforts, you know, but the things which were happening in the West were not a secret, actually, to the people in the East, I think. Yeah, you're right. I mean, maybe it's also interesting that in Germany we have it's it's a federation, so we have Länder, and all the Länder which are parts of Germany, but they are like Bavaria, for example, or Brandenburg, and they do have their own teletext. They have their own broadcast channel in TV, and they have their own teletext. So you would have like ARD Text, where I work. It's a nationwide teletext, and the focus is international news and nationwide news. And you would also have a Brandenburg or now a Berlin and Brandenburg TV channel, which has regional news in the teletext. So you have many teletexts in Germany. You could choose between nationwide teletext. Also, we have the second program. We have private channels like Pro7, Sat1. They all still have teletext, and they're pretty much alive. And so there are many teletexts in Germany, many different offerings, and you can get very good regional information from your regional teletext. And of course, we all work together. We are connected, and the teletext content management we have is so modern that we can give the other teletext content. For example, we are covering the World Cup now, and all the other teletexts, if they like, they can get the content from us. We deliver teletext pages directly to them, which is like a content exchange. And we also import data from other departments in the ARD, like Sportschau, which is a sports channel online, and Tagesschau. They give content to us. So we work actually like a little content network in teletext. I mean, it's like if you have in Bavaria, if you have bad weather, then you get really good regional information there, which are not interesting for the rest of the population. But I would always go to the regional channel, to get the information to the place where I'm staying right now. But I mean, we work together, and what we are talking about, the teletext, we call it the classical teletext, because it hasn't changed, since the start. But everybody's also working on the new teletext. What could the new teletext be? And you mentioned red button service, which is something we do have here now as well. It's based on a technology, it's called HBB-TV, which is hybrid broadcasting broadband television. It's combining internet and television. And ARD Text is on HBB-TV red button since 2009, 2010, like for 12 years now. And when you have a television in Germany, you press the button for the teletext, and first comes the new teletext, and if you push it another time, second time, you get the classical teletext. So we do offer this parallel right now, and people can have the choice. And the modern teletext, the content is exactly the same. We only produce it once and deliver it to the different platforms. And the modern teletext, of course, you can, for example, change the color scheme. If you have problems seeing with your eyesight, then you can enhance it, you can enlarge it, you can kind of personalize it, and of course it has a modern look compared to the classical teletext. And when we developed this, we found that the classical teletext, the information is so dense. You have like pages, like page 200, which is the starting page of sports. And you have so much information on one page. And if you do this in the new look and feel, or the modern style, you can't put so much information on one page. No, this is a real problem. People use teletext. They really know every color has a meaning, every position has a meaning. And when you do it now with the new version, you see, oh, I can't put like 20 links on one page. I can put 20 page numbers on one page in the classical teletext. I can't do it in the modern teletext. So I'm still fascinated how dense the information, how dense teletext has grown actually, and people who know how to use it, they're very good. They know where to find things. Of course, if a person has never used teletext, he or she might be confused. What is this? All these numbers, I don't get it. What means it forward and backward and the color, and why is this now pink and why is it yellow? But every color has a meaning in classical teletext. But of course, we said we have to be prepared, because even if the technology is very stable, maybe one day all the people who worked in teletext might retire, so and all the knowledge might be gone one day. Like in my department, I told you when I started, I had these colleagues who had started in the 80s, and like three of them or four of them actually retired in the last years, and it was not possible to get all the things they know to transplant to a new person, So I'm afraid that knowledge might get lost. Like I have a colleague who really started as an editor, but he was also doing graphics. It was his job to do graphics. He worked with a teletext program to do graphics. And now in my department, this knowledge is lost. I don't think anybody would be able to do this now, So we have to face that maybe one day all the people who invented teletext, who knew it by heart, who knew everything, might be gone, and also the technology around, we work with modern computers, but they still have to work with the teletext system. And so I'm sure the system will work on, but maybe our ecosystem will change in ARD. So this is also something we think about. How long can we keep on doing this the way we do it now?
But, so how are the teletext services funded? Are they privately funded, or do they rely on advertising?
As I'm working for a public broadcaster like ARD, ZDF, and all the regional channels, they don't have advertisement in teletext. Sometimes we get questions. Sometimes people ask us, can we put advertisement in your program? But we are legally not allowed. The public service, but the private teletext, they have advertisement because they're private, of course. So we are funded by the license fee. We get a part of that, what everybody is paying for television, for radio, for online. A small amount goes to teletext. And I think we are doing a lot. As I told you, we're giving content to everybody in my department. We also do the subtitling for the hard of hearing, which was a key feature of teletext. I learned that teletext was invented because they wanted to have the possibility to make subtitling for hard of hearing and deaf people. And we still do this. We do live subtitling. And I think we do a lot for ARD. But of course, we with not a small amount of money, but with I think we do a lot with the money we get. So to say. I think teletext has always been full of surprises for me. So I'm still looking around, and I'm saying if we get a good idea what we can do. One thing which came to my mind lately is that we have a lot of the news are getting really what I say, we have hard news, and I was said maybe we should have a good news, one teletext page reserved only for the good news of the day. Maybe that would also be really nice, to have a special page, and then you can look at this and say, this is one good news. The news show is bringing. I mean, we have war, we have ecology crisis, but then we have one good news. That would be, for example, one thing I would like to do. But I'm still looking around, I'm watching, and if something interesting comes up and we can integrate it in our teletext, then we are still open for it. So I don't think that all aspects of teletext have been covered yet. I think there might still be surprises. So I think this will still be fun working for teletext, and I think all the people who work in my department really like teletext. They do it. We do it actually from the heart, So, and I feel that the people who use teletext also like teletext. They have it's for some of them it's really like a bondage, So it's made from the heart, and I think some people really like it and appreciate it. And if they write us, we always write back. So we have a very good relation to the people who get in contact with us. We have in Germany is that the news, they're very, how can I describe this? I mean, teletext is always very serious, no emotions, and a lot of news, they're really getting really hot and engaged, and there's discussion, and, and small things get really big, like a shitstorm on Twitter, So I think, and what we are doing in ARD Text is we're always very calm. Yeah, we never have emotions in our texts, So, and we had this image that we are like a lighthouse in a very like in the waves, the media waves, but when you go to ARD Text, everything is on the same page, you know the numbers, it's still there, you can rely on it. Every morning we have the news of the day, the dead of the day, the birthdays of the day. And sometimes I think it's also good that we offer this, We are not in this excitement of news. We are just very calm and reliable. So sometimes I think it's also good to have something like this, This is what I really liked about teletext. I didn't expect when I started working with teletext that there would be an international crowd, and I like what you do in the UK, and people are so enthusiastic, because you don't have teletext anymore. We still have it, So I think I tell the people when I'm on Twitter, like your teletext now, it's still there, Yeah, you don't start liking it when it's gone. You'll be sad. So I think it's great, but this is something I had never expected when I walked over to teletext and started my job there. So this was a great gift, to be in contact with all the people internationally and talk to them. And I enjoyed it very much. I still enjoy it very much.
No problem at all. So if I'll say Dankeschön and auf Wiedersehen.
Ja, Dankeschön und auf Wiedersehen nach England. Vielen Dank, ja.
It was an absolute pleasure to speak with Frauke Langguth about ARD Text, and I hope one day we can speak more about teletext on future podcasts. You can find out more about ARD Text and actually see a live running teletext service on the online. If you're not in Germany and you can't press the text button, it can be done anywhere. Go to ard-text.de and that will get you to the Das Erste teletext page, which is always worth a look. It's got a navigation page on it, and you can have a look at the live teletext as it's happening from ARD. Thanks very much for listening, and as ever, if you feel that you want to contribute to help out with the supporting this podcast, you can do by buying me a KoFi. The address to do that will be in the notes of this podcast. If you want to contact me, you can get me at teletextar on Twitter. You can email sunspotstories@gmail.com. You can also join the Discord, and if you want to get a Discord invite, just hit me up on a message and I'll send you the link. So once again, thanks very much for listening to the podcast. Teletext People is a Byte High No Limit production and it's presented by me, Carl Attrell. So until next time, keep it blocky.